Welcome back to another explainer. So, have you ever noticed this kind of amusing but mostly just deeply frustrating irony in everyday life? Like, think about how easily you can listen to a friend's super complicated life problem, right? You look at it, you see the path forward with absolute clarity, and you just give them this incredible, literally life changing advice. But then, when it comes to your own life, your own career choices, or relationships, or just daily habits, you feel completely stuck. Or worse, you make terrible decisions. Why does our brilliant advice giving suddenly just vanish when we need it the absolute most?
Okay, let's dive into this because to actually answer that, we have to look back at, well, pretty much the ultimate historical example of do as I say, not as I do. We're starting with a really fascinating question. Why was history's supposedly wisest man so unbelievably foolish when it came down to his own daily life? It's this massive paradox that has puzzled scholars for centuries. And honestly, it holds the absolute key to understanding how our own brains totally betray us today.
So, to set the stage here, we're looking at King Solomon of ancient Israel. Now, if you know anything at all about ancient history, you know this guy's name is literally synonymous with wisdom. I mean, he was known the world over for his sagacity. Leaders, commoners, people would travel vast, incredible distances just to seek his counsel and see his famously fair justice in action. He was basically the gold standard for unmatched, rational advice. Like, if your world was falling apart, he was the steady hand you went to.
But here is where the story takes a slightly scandalous turn, and it brilliantly illustrates the core tension of what we're talking about today. See, publicly, the persona that got etched into all the history books, he represented flawless wisdom, fair justice, great counsel, the whole shebang. But his private reality? Shockingly different. He was profligate. He raised a tyrant son. His personal life was, for lack of a better word, entirely shambolic. It's almost like two completely different people were inhabiting the exact same throne.
The specific details of Solomon's personal chaos are actually kind of staggering. For starters, his poor parenting essentially created one of the cruelest tyrants in biblical history, his son Rehoboam. And Rehoboam went on to turn Judah into a total pit of abomination and sin. So, yeah, not exactly Father of the Year material. But wait, it doesn't stop there. Solomon had many pagan wives, numerous concubines, resulting in what historians consider a likely host of illegitimate children. And despite actively advising others on how to live well, he himself lived this incredibly extravagant, totally profligate lifestyle. He gave absolutely no thought to living a temperate, sensible life himself.
The irony here is just profound. For all of his legendary sagacity when it came to sorting out other people's affairs, Solomon was woefully myopic when it came to his own, just incredibly short-sighted. He could effortlessly see the solutions to the most complex problems of absolute strangers, but he was utterly blind to the destruction he was literally laying the foundation for in his own home and his own kingdom. But what's really fascinating about all of this is that we aren't just looking at some quirky historical anecdote. We are transitioning straight from ancient history right into modern science. Because it turns out King Solomon's massive blind spot isn't just a uniquely royal failing. It's actually a biological reality that reflects every single one of us. Modern psychology has finally caught up with ancient history to explain exactly why we do this.
So, the crucial point is this. Solomon's paradox. That's the official term for a widespread social cognitive bias where we are much, and I mean much, better at giving rational, useful advice to others than we are to ourselves. It essentially boils down to this psychological reality. We are significantly more expert in our reasoning when we are distanced from a situation. The closer we are to a problem, well, the less wisdom we actually have.
And we actually know this thanks to some really rigorous academic study. Let's look at the research. Back in 2014, psychologists Igor Grossman and Ethan Kross published a truly groundbreaking paper. They're the ones who officially connected the ancient king to our modern brains, introducing the whole idea of Solomon's paradox to the scientific community. They proved that this isn't just some anecdotal feeling we all share on a bad day. No, it's a measurable, hardwired psychological phenomenon.
Their research revealed a finding that really gives this explainer its academic weight. They found that people, quote, display wiser reasoning about another person's problems compared with their own, end quote. By actually putting this to the test in the lab, Grossman and Cross gave us the missing puzzle piece to basically thousands of years of human hypocrisy. We simply do not process our own problems using the same logical machinery that we use for everybody else.
And this dynamic perfectly captures what you and I do every single day. Think about it. When a friend comes to you with an issue, you're rational, you're useful, you're highly objective. But the second you face your own problem, boom, you are immediately clouded by a social cognitive bias. Your emotions, your fears, your ego, they all just get in the way. It becomes incredibly personal, and unfortunately, that dictates how we navigate our lives.
Which naturally leads us to a massive, highly practical dilemma. If our brains are literally wired to be foolish about our own lives, if we are biologically prone to Solomon's paradox, how on earth do we give ourselves good advice? How do we access that incredibly wise counselor living inside our own heads when we actually need them for ourselves?
Well, fortunately, psychology didn't just diagnose the problem, it actually provided a cure. And the solution is something known as self-distancing. It's a beautifully straightforward, highly actionable technique. Since the root of the problem is simply that we are way too close to our own lives, the logical fix is to artificially manufacture that exact same distance that makes us so wise when dealing with strangers. We literally don't have to stay trapped in our own myopia.
Let's move to and see how this builds into a very specific, easy-to-follow 3-step methodology. Step 1. Take a step back. Step 2. Treat your life like a book. Step 3. Advise yourself like a best friend. Now, these aren't just empty self-help phrases, okay? This is a clinically proven cognitive workaround. By diligently following these steps, you can effectively trick your own brain out of its inherent bias.
Let's break down exactly the mechanics of how you go about hacking your own wisdom. If you want to make positive steps in improving who you are, you simply have to distance your ego. Treat your own life like you're reading about characters in a novel. Pretend you're advising a loved one. Talk to yourself like you're giving a suggestion to your absolute best friend. By literally asking out loud, what would I say to them if they were facing this exact same situation, your brain shifts gears. It immediately leaves panic mode and enters that rational, advice-giving mode. You bypass the paradox entirely.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to ponder. Are you living your life as the wise counselor or the shambolic king? You have the capacity for incredible sagacity. You really do. You just have to step back far enough to actually see it. The next time you face a tough choice, just remember Solomon. Deliberately create that distance and be a best friend to yourself. Thank you so much for joining me today. And as always, keep learning.